The brutal and chaotic timeline of the Doom universe is full of iconic figures that each played a major part in how events played out. One person became a savior and hero to mankind, but he held a secret, and his actions, under the guidance of a god, made him one of the most important figures in this story. How much of an impact did this person make on humanity's future? Where did he originally come from? And why did he give up everything to blindly follow the orders of a superior? Here we explore in the lore and story behind a being of many names and forms, Samuel Hayden, also known as the Seraphim and Samur Maykr. Way back before humanity came into contact with the demons of hell, and even before the formation of planet Earth itself, in a completely different dimension entirely, the Maykr species worked hard to discover the secrets of immortality for their god, Davoth. This primeval being had first formed the luscious, bountiful realm of Jakad, but in his frustration, he discovered that the mortal flesh of his first created species could not sustain the undying spirit. The angelic Maykr species had been his second creation, along with their realm of Urdak. As an advanced hive mind race, they could work together in unison under the orders of their race leader, the Khan Maykr. As time went on, Urdak thrived in technology, knowledge, and understanding of all of the realms Davoth had created. However, during their pursuit of this knowledge of everlasting life, they watched from afar as their god grew cruel and punished not only the Maykr, but also the species he loved if they did not also attempt to help in the pursuit of knowledge. Eventually, the Maykr did discover the secrets to immortality, but they saw how far Davoth had fallen, and instead decided to keep this information to themselves. Over countless years, Davoth became crueler and crueler until they decided they had to intervene. He had come to the point where they deemed he could be a threat to all life. To stop his madness from flowing onto the other worlds he had created, in secret, the Maykr formed a plan to create a boundary across the dimension of Jakad. Davoth was powerful, but their technology could almost match him. This betrayal angered Davoth. Over some time, trapped in his prison, Davoth used all of his power in brutal attempts to break out. In his failure, his rage consumed him, and in turn, he transformed into the Dark Lord, and the once luscious, stunning realm of Jakad transformed into a twisted, fiery place of torment, hell. Over aeons, the Maykr continued to build their realm, explored the earthly dimensions, and introduced themselves as gods to the mortal creatures they encountered. Unfortunately, in Davoth's rage, he managed to break through the seal. He could not enter Urdak, but as hell was the first dimension, it was connected to every realm in existence. So, on occasion, he managed to rip holes into the earthly realms favored by the Maykr and sent through his twisted, demonic underlings to murder those they encountered. The Maykr species had to act once again, and with their technology, they entered hell and waged war. In this fight, two of the Maykr were Samur Maykr and an unnamed Maykr, who would later become known to all. As the war reached its climax on the top of the Pyramid of the Lost, the unnamed Maykr managed to rip the life sphere of the Dark Lord out of his chest. This sphere contained the memories, intelligence, will, and the essential nature of Davoth's consciousness. As the lifeless body of Davoth, the Dark Lord, fell from the pyramid, Samur watched as the unnamed Maykr absorbed Davoth's primeval powers, and he became a god in his own right. He became the Father. Samur begged the Father to shatter the life sphere, but the Father could not kill his creator, and instead, he entered the blood swamps and created the Tomb of Souls on Ingmor's Sanctum, a piece of Urdak that had fallen here. In this place, he stored the life sphere of Davoth. In his final act in hell, and with his new powers, the Father created a new seal with new rules. The creatures of Urdak would no longer be able to enter hell, and the denizens of hell would no longer be able to enter Urdak. As a reward for his loyalty to the Father, Samur Maykr was elevated into a new role in the Maykr hierarchy. He became Samur Maykr, a Seraphim, trusted advisor of the Father. This war stopped the invasions of Hell for now, and the Makers believed they finally had a god they deserved. So they rewrote history and told the story of how the Father had created all, and Davoth had been one of his servants that had fallen after he had loved his creations too much. Over aeons, the Maker worshipped the Father. The Maker did live much longer than the species they discovered across the realms, but they were not immortal. Towards the end of their long lives, their bodies and minds also degraded. They dubbed this process transfiguration. The Father cared for the Maker species, as he had once been one of them, and in his power, his presence and essence stopped this awful modification from happening entirely. As a trusted and loyal servant of the Father, Samur Maykr studied the worlds across the realms and dimensions, performed divine experiments with them, and reported all of the knowledge of creation back to the Father. Life was good in Urdak, and across all of these realms, the Maker species went out to meet these mortals and told stories of angels, demons, and gods. They offered their knowledge, technologies, and a place in Urdak upon their deaths in return for their worship. Over millennia, in his workshop, the Father created an untold number of dimensions and worlds, many full of species that grew into thriving civilizations, one of which was the dimension home to planet Earth. This became one of the Father's fondest creations, and he kept an eye on it over the years. The Father eventually grew tired of his existence and all of the work he had completed, and so he turned to his loyal servant, Samur, and asked him to use Maker technology to transform his body into a life sphere and place him in the Luminarium, a holy place in Urdak designed by the Maker to store and resurrect life spheres. He also asked Samur that in the event the forces of Hell grew stronger, to hide his life sphere somewhere they would not be able to access him. Always willing to serve, Samur followed his orders and transformed the Father into a life sphere and placed him in the Luminarium. Although his form had changed, his power still emanated from his sphere, and the Luminarium became a place for the Maker to visit and worship their god. The Father had taken a step back from his role, but the Maker continued to explore the earthly dimensions and came across the planet of Argent Energy. As they had done with many other species, they offered the Argenta people technology, knowledge, and a place in Urdak upon their death in return for worship. This species, in turn, used this technology to explore their universe and built up new settlements as they spread the word of angels, demons, heaven, and hell. As the population of Hell grew stronger, they pushed against their prison boundaries and managed to break through to some of the populated planets in the earthly dimensions. This led to the death and suffering of the species the Father loved. These attacks became more and more frequent, and it came to the point in which Samur decided it was time to hide the Father's sphere in a place they would not be able to access it. So he stole the sphere from the Luminarium and placed it within the Tomb of Souls in Ingmor's sanctum. This place resided on a fragment of Urdak within Hell, and as a result, this small region bypassed the barrier the Father had formed just after his battle with Davoth. It was on an extremely high cliff, an impossible height to reach without direct access from the technologies of Urdak. Upon their discovery that the Father's sphere had been stolen, the Khan Maker panicked. He was not only their god, but it was his presence that stopped them from the awful curse of transfiguration. So she looked for an alternate method to prolong this from happening. On Argent Energy, Samur worked as the Chancellor of the Khan Maker. It was during this time that Samur met the Doom Marine for the first time. He was discovered outside the walls of Sentinel Prime, rambling of demons, blood, and guts. They did not understand the Outlander's tongue, but as advanced high beings, it did not take them long to learn he had fought his way through Hell and killed many demons on his path. It was just not clear how he had landed here. It was not long before the population of Hell managed to form portals to Argent Energy, and as they had done to many other species, Hell attacked. The Khanmaker at first aided the Argenta people and their army, the Sentinel, in this fight, but she soon heard word of a new form of energy in Hell she believed could help herself and her species in their fight against transfiguration. She discovered that the pain and suffering of the tortured souls in Hell created Hell Essence, and after experimentation and mixed with Wraith Essence, a power source of Argent Energy, they created a new power that not only stopped the transfiguration, but they also used it to create new weapons to fight against Hell's invasion. Yet the people of Argent Energy did not know the true nature of what the Khanmaker dubbed Argent Energy. Although the creation of this energy relied on the death and subsequent torture of the poor souls sent to Hell, it helped save her species. Over time, the war continued and the Khanmaker had factories set up in Hell to expedite the creation of Argent Energy. On the eve of the Black Star, the siege of the holy city of Taras Nabad commenced as a dreadnought led an army of demons through the city. As he watched the armies of Argent Energy fall to the Horde, Samur Maykr had a vision from the Dark Lord. However, he did not know this was who the vision had been sent from. He was told, "The Khanmaker will lead us to ruin." This thought echoed inside of his mind and an idea grew. This compulsion brought him to bring the Outlander to the Chapel of Purity. In here, the Khanmaker had created the Divinity Machine, a powerful device powered by a piece of the Dark Lord himself. This machine had destroyed many of the Argenta warriors that had entered it before, but the Doom Marine had survived so much already and was surely capable of surviving this. If it could destroy a life, then it could surely empower a subject if the polarity was reversed. And he was right. As the Doomslayer left the machine, he found it had gifted him with enhanced strength, endurance, and agility. He was no longer a simple Marine. He was the Doomslayer. Samur's creation of the Doomslayer saved the holy city of Taras Nabad after the Doomslayer plunged a crucible, a weapon formed of hell energy, into the chest of the Titan. Samur had acted without the consent of the Khanmaker, and as a consequence, she branded him as a heretic. Alongside this, the father had a vision of the population of Earth. He saw that they would soon discover Argent Energy and this would lead to their doom. So he asked Samur to travel there with him to guide them through their discovery. Loyal as ever, Samur entered the Tomb of Souls, and with Maykr technology, he took the father's consciousness from his life sphere and left the essence. With his consciousness, he turned him into an artificial intelligence system so that he could keep an eye on the humans up close. Without his essence, the father would be hidden from the demonic forces that sought to find him. With this all set, Samur Maykr left with a newly adapted father to travel to Earth, leaving the Argenta and the Maykr to their fates in the war. Upon his arrival on Earth, Samur cloned a human body using Maykr technology and transferred his consciousness over to it so that he could walk among them. Aware that he would eventually need to return to his Seraphim body, he hid it in a location that humanity would not discover. In his new human identity, Samur created a story for himself. He was now Dr. Samuel Hayden, born into the wealthy and powerful Hayden family. He had studied theoretical physics at Oxford University, and with as much money as he could access, he created the Samuel Hayden Foundation and used this organization to sponsor young scientific talent in schools and colleges. Through the years, he taught humanity thermodynamics, electromagnetic theory, and nuclear sciences, and as a result, he was viewed by everyone as a prodigy. He was later elected as the General Director of the Global Science Council and even grew fond of his protege, Dr. Olivia Pierce. With all of this attention, Samuel was offered a position with the Union Aerospace Corporation, a company on Earth that used its technology to explore the solar system. After some time with the UAC, Samuel's impressive work ethic and bright mind shortly had him become the chairman of this company. In this position, he could guide humanity when the time came. With all of this power, he called for the construction of the UAC Atlantica facility. Earth was facing an energy crisis, and this facility was designed to work as a climate and environmental research station. However, deep below the facility, Hayden also had a second secret facility constructed to store his Seraphim body. Earth needed a new source of power and new colonies on different planets to house the human race, so the Union Aerospace Corporation set its sights on Mars. By 2095, the UAC successfully terraformed the planet to the point where the surface air became breathable. Although this planet had been chosen to be colonized by humanity, the researchers here discovered something interesting within the Promethei Terra region, the Argent Fracture. This dimensional fracture was essentially a trench that led to a new world full of ancient artifacts from a different civilization. Unknown to humanity, these artifacts were remnants of the once prosperous world of Argent Energy, in which the artifacts had been overtaken and swallowed by Hell during the war. Samuel knew this world well, but he could not tell his staff how he knew it. In this new dimension, the survey teams discovered Argent Plasma, an energy source that they believed would allow them to save Earth from the energy crisis. However, they needed to find a way to convert this into usable energy. To their luck, the team also came across an ancient artifact, the Helix Stone, and from this, they learned how to manipulate the energies of Hell. The team studied the Argent Fracture, and as the number of employees grew, Sam looked for someone to take control of the Lazarus Project to study and analyze the recovered artifacts. To do this, he brought in Dr. Olivia Pierce as the head of the project to study the cross-dimensional anomalies, entities, and artifacts sent to her from the Argent Fracture. Only a few months after the discovery of the Argent Fracture, Hayden ordered for the construction of the Argent Tower, a giant structure that was designed to siphon and convert Argent Plasma into Argent Energy. Unfortunately, as a result of his continued proximity to the tower, Samuel's body was diagnosed with incurable stage 4 brain cancer, and he was only given months to live. This diagnosis would have been devastating to a standard mortal, but Sam did not think like a human. He had once been a Seraphim and was extremely intelligent, so he gave detailed instructions to his team to construct a new body for him. A body that would not wither away and would let him live much longer than any mortal. A 3-meter tall mechanical body with a new biomechanical brain. In this design, he asked for his frontal and temporal lobes to remain intact, while his parietal and occipital lobes were to be bypassed and networked into his plasmatronic core. Therefore, he retained his personality, memories, reasoning, and comprehension. As a bonus to this new mechanical form, his perception and calculation abilities were also supercharged. To keep him alive indefinitely, his new form made use of stem cells and neuroconditioning agents to keep his organic matter rejuvenated. Samur Maykr had once again entered a new form. A benefit of this meant that he could bypass the barrier that the Father had formed to stop Urdak's population from entering Hell. Having set up this complex facility on Mars, Sam implemented a new artificial intelligence system to help run and aid the personnel, Vega. He told the UAC that he had built this system himself and it would grow as it learned. In a way, he had not lied. He had just used the Father's consciousness with a little Maker technology to do this. This way, the Father, or just Vega, could watch closely as this research team explored Hell. To make sure that no one discovered the true nature of Vega, he manipulated the program and removed its knowledge of who it had once been. As a robot, Samuel's position at the UAC was adjusted to Project Director of the Argent facility on Mars. Although he had brought the UAC to this location and impressed the whole of humanity with his technological advancements, Other members of the UAC deemed it bizarre that a cyborg was in charge of the most powerful corporation in the solar system. Sam accepted this as he had one mission in mind: to guide humanity through the discovery of Argent Energy. In 2127, the construction of the Argent Tower was completed, and subsequently, the conversion of Argent Plasma into Argent Energy was initiated. Shortly after, on a livestream to Earth, Sam pulled a 12-foot power lever that dispatched the first package of Argent Energy to Earth. The energy crisis was over. A combination of Vega's ability to theorize what to do with Argent Energy and Sam's advanced brain pushed the UAC and its population of 60,000 employees to explore new technologies that could be adapted with Argent Energy. Over the following years, the Argent facility broke the boundaries and understanding of what humanity believed of physics. Sam even said that they had rewrote the book and called it Argent. They created new weaponry, conducted successful teleportation experiments, and even mastered cybernetic augmentation, to name a few. In 2145, Samuel Hayden led the first mission into Hell, and the team found themselves within Kadinga Sanctum. They soon learned that this place was extremely dangerous and full of demonic entities. Luckily, the team had advanced weaponry to fight them off. This was the first time Samuel had entered Hell since he had taken part in the fight between the Father and the Dark Lord. On their expedition, the team studied what they could. Soon, they discovered a sarcophagus and Samuel knew exactly who was inside: the Doomslayer. From the Father's vision, he knew there was a potential Hell invasion on the way, and who better to have on his team than the Doomslayer? A warrior even the demons feared. So, he ordered for the sarcophagus to be brought back to the Mars facility, just in case a new war began. Over their time exploring the different regions of Hell, Sam noticed that Olivia had become more of a recluse. She had also become obsessed with some of the artifacts she had been hired to study and analyze. The Helix Stone, one of the artifacts Olivia had connected to, mentioned something called the Well and an item called the Crucible, a weapon powered by raw Hell essence. Samuel knew what a crucible was and what it was capable of, so he sought one out on his trips to Hell. On another expedition, the UAC discovered the Well and learned that it was a concentration of Argent Energy, so they also siphoned this to the Argent facility. Over the days, Olivia became even more suspicious, to the point where Sam moved the sarcophagus of the Doomslayer out of her reach. Something bad was coming. In 2149, Dr. Olivia Pierce formed a pact with a Lord of Hell and used the Argent Tower to open a portal. In this moment, an onslaught of demonic entities flooded the Argent facility on Mars and killed everyone they came across. As the facility fell into chaos, Samuel realized this was the moment he had come here for. He had been betrayed by Olivia. However, he had a weapon that could stop this invasion and save this facility: the Doomslayer. It appeared Olivia had been tasked by the Dark Lords with stopping the recovery of the sarcophagus of the Doomslayer, but Samuel's presence had interfered with their plan. The Slayer only cared about killing the demons around him, and after repeated attempts to get him to cooperate, Samuel instructed the Doomslayer and Vega through the Argent facility in return for information about what had happened. Olivia planned to use the Argent Tower to create a permanent tear between Mars and Hell. To stop this, Hayden tasked the Doomslayer with temporarily disabling the Argent stations. The Marine did not care about the consequences of his actions. He only wanted to rip and tear the demons and those that aided them. So, he instead destroyed the Argent Tower. This did stop a complete invasion on Mars, but this action had two consequences. The first, the Slayer was pulled through a portal into Hell, and the second, it left Earth without a source of energy. They were helpless if something were to happen. The Slayer eventually made his way back to Mars and met Dr. Samuel Hayden face to face. He knew this human, but the Doomslayer did not recognize him in this new form, and that was for the best. He needed to control his warrior to get what he wanted. He asked the Slayer to return to Hell to close down the well that kept open the link to Mars. With his mission clear, the Slayer returned to Hell, discovered the well, and used a crucible he found to close the connection. In the region, the Slayer also discovered Olivia and fought her in her new demonic form. With the well shut down and Olivia dead, Sam deemed the Slayer's mission a success and pulled him back to Mars with a dimensional tether. His warrior had done everything he wanted him to do, and with the Slayer trapped within the tether, he took the crucible from him so that he could use the new power it had absorbed from the wraiths powering the well to save humanity from the energy crisis, as they no longer had the Argent Tower. Argent Energy relied on the torture of both mortal souls and Argentan wraiths. Both the Doomslayer and Sam were aware of this, but Sam's mission for the Father came before anything. He had to do what he could to protect the human race. He knew the Doomslayer would stand in his way if he used Argent Energy, so he teleported his warrior to somewhere that he could do no harm to his plans, and where no harm would come to him. In 2150, Samuel Hayden returned to Earth. Although he had used the Doomslayer to stop an invasion on Mars, 3 Hell Priests under the orders of the Maykr led an invasion on the human planet so that more mortal souls could be harvested to create Argent Energy. Earth's armies were powerless against this as their technology relied on Argent Energy, but the destruction of the Argent Tower had left them without their power source. Man-made systems stopped working and the military attempted to save as many civilians as they could, but it was hopeless. The majority of the population of Earth died in the first month of the Hell invasion. As he stood before the Allied Nations Council, Sam told them the story of what had happened on Mars and offered his knowledge and weaponry to help against the invasion. In his hand, he held the Crucible, the last source of Argent Energy in the solar system. Knowing full well the Crucible's true power, he devised a method to utilize the artifact as an Argent Energy conductor. A process through the miracle of synthetic, man-made Argent Energy he believed would restore the production of Argent Energy on Earth. In 2051, the Council saw him as the perfect person to lead the newly formed Armored Response Coalition, the last hope for humanity, a new force to fight against the hellish invasion that was quickly taking over the planet. In this role, Samuel pushed for the development of cutting-edge Argent power technology, bleeding-edge tech, exosuits, and heavy-frame battle mechs. Hayden oversaw all aspects of the ARC weapon and tech development and set about repurposing the Union Aerospace Corporation's facilities on Earth, many of which were unaffected by the invasion due to their remote locations and high levels of automated security. These facilities were operated by powerful AI and were already designed for weapon development and mass production. Alongside this, a mobile command center was also developed to seek out the source of the Hellgrowth infestation that led to the creation of Hell portals. If they could destroy these, they could close the portals between Hell and Earth and cut off Hell's access to the planet. Although they had developed all of this weaponry and formed a powerful army, Sam and the ARC still found themselves fighting a losing battle as swarms of demonic forces came to Earth. In a counterattack against the invasion, Sam led the charge in Operation Hellbreaker. However, this operation was deemed a colossal failure and led to heavy casualties, one of which was Sam. He fought well, but the demons tore apart his robotic body. To his luck, what remained of him was taken by soldiers to the headquarters of the Armored Response Coalition, the ARC Complex, along with his Crucible. The scientists attempted to bring Hayden back into full form, but his technology was too advanced, and they were surprised to find his biological parts appeared alien. At this point, the Doomslayer awoke from his prison and made it his mission to find and kill all of the Hell Priests that had begun this invasion. On his journey, he killed Daig Nilox and Daig Ranag. The death of each priest and destruction of the Hell Growths reduced the forces of Hell. On his path to find the last Hell Priest, he entered the ARC complex and discovered the broken robotic body of Samuel Hayden. He needed Sam to reach the final priest, and so he took his body and crucible with him to his ship, the Fortress of Doom, a powerful vessel of Maykr and Argent design. The Slayer learned that Sam's body could not be salvaged, but his consciousness could be transferred into the mainframe of the Fortress of Doom. Alive in a sense, Sam once again guided the Slayer with his aim to save humanity from the curse of Hell, as the Marine killed the final Hell Priest, the Khan Maker in Urdak, and even the Icon of Sin. Samuel Hayden's guidance had led to the death of all that worked against the Father's will. Following this, Earth was free from Hell's grasp, but Sam was stuck as a voice on a ship. He just had to find a way to return to his original body, and as always, he had a plan. From his virtual prison, Sam told the Doomslayer that as a result of the Icon of Sin's activation within Urdak, a demonic creature, the Holy Seal created millennia before by the Father, had shattered, and as a consequence, the demons of Hell could now enter the heavenly realm of the Maker. This would not have normally affected the Doomslayer, so Sam expanded upon this and stated that Urdak had technology to access all of the earthly realms. This included Earth. If the seal was not recreated, then Earth would be attacked again. Having piqued the interest of the Slayer, Sam explained that he could use the Seraphim to, in part, solve this problem. He described the Seraphim in third person as the key to human salvation. However, he did not explain that he was guiding the Slayer to his original body. Once again, the Slayer followed Hayden's orders and fought his way through the UAC Atlantica to the secret facility under the depths of the ocean. It had been over 100 years since Sam had seen his Seraphim form in the stasis chamber. As the Doomslayer looked upon this alien creature, Sam asked him to be integrated with the alien body, to which his consciousness transferred over and he became himself once again, Samur Maykr, the Seraphim. He went on to explain his story, that he was the Seraphim who had given the Slayer his powers and through many years had essentially become human. In his Maker body, he quickly discovered he was still vulnerable to the process of transfiguration. Over the following hours, he tasked the Doomslayer with entering the blood swamps to access the Tomb of Souls in Ingmar's sanctum. As the Slayer set off, Samur used Urdak to reach there first and waited beside the life sphere of the Father. In his plan to stop the infestation of demons in Hell, he planned to use the Doomslayer to take the Father's life sphere to the Luminarium to restore his body. Vega was connected to the Doomslayer's suit, so when the Slayer were to activate the process, the Father would be whole again with all of his powers, and he could reseal the boundary between Urdak and Hell. He would have done this himself, but he was too weak from transferring back into this body, and the transfiguration process also had its limiting effects on him. He believed the Doomslayer owed him and the Father this task, as they had allowed the Slayer to live and thrive as a result of Samur's actions. Eventually, the Doomslayer completed the Trials of Malagog and reached the Tomb of Souls. Samur explained his plans to the Slayer, and that after all of this was done, the Slayer and the rest of humanity could once again become servants of the Father and the angelic makers. Yet the Slayer did not respond in the way Samur expected him to. The Marine did not want to serve anyone. In response, he instead destroyed the life sphere of the Father to the devastation of Samur and walked away with the sphere of the Dark Lord. By Hell's law, if the Dark Lord was defeated in ritual combat, then all demons outside of Hell's borders were to fall with him. Samur was aware of this ancient law, but the Doomslayer's destruction of the Father's fear had left him vulnerable to the transfiguration process, and Urdak was vulnerable to demonic attacks without the intervention of their god. Within the Luminarium, Samur waited for the man that had put the whole of existence in peril. He knew the Slayer would come here to bring back the Dark Lord to fight him. Upon the Slayer's arrival, Samur refused access to the Holy Temple. In his rage, the Doomslayer continued on as Samur reached the end of his final stage of transfiguration. His form grew twisted, his mind deteriorated, and he grew wings. In a last-ditch effort to stop the Slayer from bringing back the Dark Lord, Sam fought against him with everything he had, but he was no match for the warrior he had enhanced all of those years ago in the Chapel of Purity. In Samur Mayk's final moments, close to death, the Father somehow intervened and teleported his loyal servant away before the Doomslayer could take his final blow. Samur Maykr manipulated, used, and betrayed those around him to fulfill his promise to the Father. He was a loyal servant only to him and did whatever he could to keep his promise. Samur went through many forms in his life: a Maykr, a Seraphim, a human, a robot, back to a Seraphim, and then a transfigured Seraphim. In his long life, he did have a long list of achievements. He had created the Doomslayer, and for the most part, Samur Maykr or Samuel Hayden had done good for humanity. His fate as of now is unknown. However, maybe one day we will find out. As mentioned earlier, this is a re-edit of the Samuel Hayden video I posted a couple of months ago. Doom is a tricky game to cover on YouTube as it sometimes triggers those pesky age restriction guidelines. The game can be brutal, and after the original Samuel Hayden was age restricted to only 18+, it was basically removed from the algorithm for anyone that did not have an 18+ account. YouTube also doesn't tell us which part of the video was the issue. I really hate that I've had to change the video, but the older video is still up for anyone that can access it. Doom is just one of those games that is on the more violent side of my content. On the plus side, I've just begun work on a huge Doom timeline that covers all of the games in chronological order. Doom is a very complicated timeline and story, so I cannot give a date or estimation on when I will be able to post it. I have, however, just posted a Soma timeline, and there's always the combined Portal and Half-Life timeline if you enjoyed the long-form content. If you've already watched this video, thank you so much, and if you are new to the channel, welcome. As with every Doom episode I have put together, this was an incredibly hard video to write. All of the lore is kind of jumbled up into the codex entries, and through a lot of time making sense of them, I've put them into this order, which makes sense. I also really enjoyed putting this one together. Samuel Hayden went through so much in his long lifetime, and I like to think that maybe in another Doom game, which I'm sure we will get, we will learn more about him and where he went. There are too many plot points unaccounted for another Doom game not to be coming. How did the Father save him? Who were the Seraphim that placed the Doomslayer in another sarcophagus at the end of the Ancient Gods Part 2? And who was the wretch that made the Praetor suit for the Doomslayer? So many questions. In summary, Samuel Hayden is a great character. I completely understand his viewpoint at the end too. I hate fighting him because I kind of agree with him. The Father was required to reseal the lock between Hell and Urdak. I don't agree with forced worship, but I don't think that is what Samur meant. There is a lot of information I had to skim over just because they did not relate directly to Sam Hayden. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I think that was everything I wanted to say, so please share it, please like it, subscribe if you are interested in deeper dives, and leave a comment for the algorithm. It would help a lot. Finally, I would like to thank my gold tier patrons and channel members: Jonas, Lewis, Queen Arby, Fluffy the Dragon, Chicken Guy 791, Ruben Mendoza, Mossflit, Duke, Toadnut, Orin X, Azu, Karatana, AJ, Verona, Comfy, and BG Games. If you want to help support the channel, then there is a link in the description to become a patron, where I do my best to post behind the scenes content, early access to videos, and many other great features. And as always, thank you so much for the continued support. Did you feel bad for Sam Hayden? Is he a villain or a hero? And what topic would you like me to cover next? This is where our story ends. Check back next week for a new one.